that can make some extreme friction within the group. It's Tuesday, it's tea time. Let's talk about the only rules that matter in D&D. D&D is a pretty rules-heavy tabletop role-playing game. In the spectrum of complicated rules for tabletop role-playing games, I would say over here is Amber Diceless, and over here is Rifts. Let's say that D&D, the current edition, is somewhere middle toward the more complicated side, right between 3.5 and Pathfinder. I know that that is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but as somebody who avoids math wherever possible, it's a pretty complicated system for me. So, the rules that I run and play D&D by, aside from the rules that are given in the book, are this. 1, you should be having fun. Why play the game if you are not having fun? If it's not fun for you, you should not play. Simple. If you cannot communicate to your DM and your other players that you are having a barrier to your fun, you shouldn't play, especially with that group. Maybe find a different group. Try to find people who mesh with your role-playing style. If you are a Crunchy Cruncher 10 combat monster who wants to go and kill the things and roll all the dice, find a group that wants to do that. If you are a heavy role-play character who wants to roll as few dice as possible, you should find a group that wants to do that. It's very hard to balance a high crunch player with a high role-play needs player. They are on different sides of the spectrum, and it's really hard to keep that balance because inevitably the scales will tip to one side or the other, and whomever the scale is tipped away from is going to be bored. It's really important to make sure that you are constructing your group with everyone's desires and needs in mind. That is paramount. Rule 2, you are responsible for your own fun. If you are not having fun, you need to say something about it. Rule number 3, you are responsible for everyone else's fun. You do not get to make the game all about you. You have to work with everyone else. This is collaborative story writing, collaborative storytelling. It's a cooperative game. If you are making the game fun for you, but you are not worried about your other players, you are breaking a cardinal rule of playing a cooperative game. It should be fun for everyone. Rule number 4, communication saves lives. Be it out-of-character communication, in-character communication, there's going to be way fewer times that over-communicating is a problem in relation to under-communicating. Under-communicating is almost always going to present a problem with one character not knowing something, or even a player not knowing something that another character knows. That said, you cannot assume across the table that all information that your character gets is automatically shared. It's very common with D&D groups that if there is a character who is separated from the other characters who gets some information, everyone at the table automatically assumes that that character will share that information exactly as they came across it. And if this is not the case, you need to make sure that all the other players know that they can't do that. They can't metagame. They need to listen to your character and how you role play with them, because you might want to withhold some information or tell it to them in a different way. Be careful, because if you do this in a way that obscures information that presents a barrier to other people having fun, you're breaking a cardinal rule. You're not playing right. You're not playing well with others. It's not only about your fun, you're responsible for everybody else's fun as well. Play it in a way that is best for the story and best for everybody else to have fun. That's it. Those are the 4 rules. It doesn't really matter what the rules of the game are, because those 4 rules go to any game. You could be playing Fate. You could be playing Robotech. You could be playing Call of Cthulhu. You could be playing and basically any game that is set up so that it is cooperative and you're not intrinsically being an asshole to everyone else at the table. Amber Diceless, I'm looking at you. A little bit of Call of Cthulhu, I'm looking at you. Anything that is set up to be a cooperative play game should be cooperative. And that requires the buy-in of everybody around the table. DM, and all of the players. This one's really short and I'm very opinionated about it, so I guess I'll addendum with the rules for when I storytell World of Darkness. The player characters have to be good guys. I don't allow my players to play bad guys unless we're all playing bad guys and we're doing an evil campaign. I highly recommend that if you are a new storyteller, doesn't matter what game you are, that you tell your players that they have to play good guys or they all have to play bad guys. When you mix people who are altruistic and people who are selfish together, unless you have really experienced players, that can make some extreme friction within the group and cause a bunch of bombs to go off, metaphorically, in your game. So that's a rule that I always say, is that you have to play a good guy. Number 2, you can't play a loner in my games. You must play well with others. Because these games are cooperative games, we are required to play together to achieve an end goal. When you play a loner character and you leave the party and you divert the attention of the game master toward you on your own, you are stealing the spotlight from everyone. A good DM, a good storyteller, will be able to move that spotlight and cast it where they want so that everyone gets at least the feeling of equal time. But if you are a new DM, I highly recommend you tell your players they can't split the party. Tell them out of character, no loner characters, don't split the party, please. I am not experienced enough to deal with that yet. As you gain more experience dealing with players who are more vocal around the table and trying to pull in players who are less vocal around the table, you will automatically get experience in dealing with scenes that involve only one character and how to divert the spotlight to make sure that other characters also get their time in the spotlight. You don't need to split the party to do that. That usually happens very naturally. There are natural leaders in the group and natural followers in the group. You have to learn to make sure that the person who is taking the natural lead doesn't get all the say in everything, doesn't get all of the spotlight, doesn't get all of the time, doesn't make all of the decisions. You as the dungeon master, the game master, the storyteller, have the power to move things around and make sure that you are engaging your other players and making sure that they get time to roleplay too. For some people who are shy or introverted, it might take a little more. For some people who are newer at roleplaying, it might take a little more to get them warmed up. That's okay. That's okay. But if you're new at storytelling, or heck, if you're going to be storytelling for anybody who is new, require that the characters are all the same general type of character. Good guys or bad guys. When you get more experience or you have more experienced players, then you can begin to explore the shades of gray inherent in morality, or the interpersonal relationships that motivations that are set at odds can produce. That takes people who know how to write a story and who are willing to introduce that conflict between their characters. You would be surprised at how many people are not willing to have a conflict with another player character. It makes them feel like the other player is upset with them and not just the other character. And a lot of the times that can be true. It's kind of hard to separate the feelings of the character from the feelings of the player. I did a video on Bleed already if you want to check that out. That happens in D&D too. It's not just LARP. Sometimes it becomes hard to figure out where you stop and your character begins, especially if you're new at all of this. And my third rule for when I storytell, you gotta buy in. In my World of Darkness setting, there is an alliance between the vampires and the werewolves and the changelings, and it's tenuous and it's very fragile. And the players are part of that alliance. They're part of a task force that has been put together to investigate things that threaten the alliance. And so when I talk to my players, I say, you have to buy in to the alliance. That's the whole overarching plot to this game, is the alliance. So if you are not backing that, you can't play in the game. All of the plot threads that I have come up with for that game tie into the fact that if this alliance fails, everybody is screwed. And so all the players are required to make their characters care. Here is a red flag. If you come across a player who says that's what my character would do and uses it as a justification for asshole moves against the party, just tell them to make a character that doesn't do that. If they can't make a character that has motivations that have them cooperate with the party, then they can't play your game. You can make that a rule. Play well with others. You have to buy in. Don't split the party. Include everyone, right? These are the rules that actually matter once you have figured out the rules of how to roll your D20 and see if you hit the monster. Because these are the things that are going to make the community around the table happen, as opposed to just point and click adventure in real life with the tabletop game. I think that is about enough of me passionately ranting at you. So thank you for sticking with me. I appreciate you. I appreciate every second of your attention that you give me. And you know what's coming. Please make sure that you hydrate yourself. Please make sure that you give yourself nutrition. Do something to fulfill your soul. And make sure that you are taking care of my friend. In return, I promise I will do my very level best to take care of yours. I'll see you next week.